welcome to the Labyrinth. My guest today is Mayank Kohli, who is a martial artist. He teaches MMA and he has also participated in many mixed martial arts tournaments. Additionally, he is the admin of the Real Truth TV, which is the first social media handle that I came across that spoke the truth about COVID and the whole pandemic and the lockdowns and masks. This was way before I came across all the other folks. This was back in maybe May, June of 2020 when I just began questioning like what the hell is happening. That was when I came across all these videos on his channel about police harassment and brutality of people who refused to wear masks, people who were disobeying the lockdown rules, and that made me really question like what the hell is happening. So I'm very grateful that Mayank did this, and I'm very grateful that the Truth TV in many ways have opened the minds of thousands of people, and currently it has more than 17,000 followers on Instagram. So I'm glad that I'm not the only guy, or we are not the only few guys in India who think like this. So thank you, Mayank, and welcome to the Labyrinth.
Cheers, man. Thank you for having me. Uh, I was super excited since the time you kind of sent that invite to me to be here, and I've been looking forward to this, dude.
Yeah, so I don't know much about you. Tell me, what do you do for a living?
For a living, dude, I do a few things. I teach mixed martial arts mainly. I was competing till 2020 before the lockdown and everything happened. I was kind of pretty much, that was my plan to take it further with my career in MMA, because I made my debut back in 2019 of December, had my first professional fight. But this entire chapter kind of, when this happened in March, I was literally thinking of opening an academy. March of 2020, I was in talks and this and that, going through a few other things, other emotional traumas or whatever I've held on to for a very long time going further. And so I saw this video of David Icke, and that kind of opened me up to, I mean, everything that I went on to doing, which was related to, starting this page and putting out this information to people, because everyone around me was pretty much trying to avoid to listen to any of these things that I had to share. So I teach mixed martial arts, man, and I also work with a functional medicine company where I kind of am a lecturer on movement. Basically a module on movement is what I teach. And this is what I do honestly for my monetary gains, but I have some other interest also that I'm trying to go further with. But that's what I do professionally, so on.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, which functional medicine institute is this?
You know about it, dude.
I
I think
is it ITRE?
yeah, it is ITRE.
Okay.
And I did a certification course from them as well. This was last year. Also, I got into healing and I wanted to understand about nutrition. I've had my own experiences of antibiotics and stuff, so which was in some way, all of these things were somewhat aligned, right? The pandemic thing that was happening, plus the health issues, my trust with medicines, all of these things made sense, right? Of what David Icke was saying and what I was experiencing myself. So I had some antibiotic reaction because in jiu-jitsu and stuff, we would get a lot of skin issues. I mean, me certainly, and a lot of boys that were training with us. And I was habitual with taking antibiotics. I've had those issues related to antibiotics, and my body became kind of resistant to it. And I was eating everything, dude. Even when I was competing, I thought there's a way where, you try to kind of, because you're training super hard, you're going to lose everything, and you don't take care of what actually eating, the kind of nutrients you're taking in. But because you're training so hard, you kind of try to, go in and just eat anything that you want to. So eventually all of that was getting too much and my body was starting to give up 2020 early. I even then I didn't realize all of these things that could have had some issue related to my microbiome or bacteria or whatever. But yeah, eventually, after experiencing, starting my page, learning through experiences of other people, I came to this understanding, and yeah, man, and that's when I Thrive also came about. Came across Johan making some random video of I think he was making a video to rebut some mainstream journalist, and yeah, and that's something that we can talk about, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of how I got into meeting these people as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, uh, what what motivated you? I know that you
Hmm.
had some trauma and you came across this David Icke video, but what motivated you to start this page at that time?
Because a lot of people were just disagreeing with me, dude. A lot of my family, my family, my close friends, I was lucky enough to watch the David Icke video with them. So, two close friends of mine already knew everything about the pandemic. My family also kind of agreed, but they were totally very dismissive about it. They would say that what's the point of it, right? Why don't you do something that's much more concrete, and why waste your time into doing all of these things and this and that? But I had so much of information, plus this kind of blew my mind away, and I was like, okay, I gotta share it somewhere. And suddenly this idea came about after just talking to a few friends of just starting this page, and I kind of enjoyed the writing as well. So initially I started with some content stuff. Like if you look at my earlier posts, the 1, 2, 3, 4 posts, this was basically me trying to dissect everything, in a sense, be very much just try to educate people to probably uh, try to critically think that there could be something more to what is just happening around them, what they see and what they understand through media itself. So the only reason why I started this page was to just share the information I had, and because people around me weren't listening. I was getting threats on my personal account, right? I was literally getting threats, so I shared something related to viruses and stuff. And so, friend, because I mean, this was early on in 2020, where someone got arrested literally for sending a WhatsApp message to
Mm-hmm.
someone. This was happening early on, if I'm able to recall. And one of my friend or someone who used to follow my account on my personal account kind of told me that you need to be a little more careful. That was like an indirect threat because I kind of disagreed with his opinions on the virus, and he's like, "Oh, it's come from bats and this and that, dude. Have you seen the Chinese markets and sort of?" So I was like, "Okay, dude, I have to become like anonymous and kind of share share what I know about it through this page," and slowly started getting bigger. And I found this Indian community as well through my research, or my intuition just telling me to just look and keep looking into this, and that's how I came across other people as well who were fighting this fight.
Yeah, it was crazy, man, when it just began that people were actually getting arrested for like having an opinion, and
Wow.
yeah, even me, like I think a lot of people lost a lot of friends during that time
Oh
and
yeah.
stopped talking to many relatives because I don't think that I have changed or even you have changed as a person during that time. We were pretty consistent.
Hmm.
It was the other side that was behaving very inconsistently. Like when the pandemic just began, I was actually in fear. I'll be honest with you, I actually believed the whole thing when it just began. I
Yeah.
thought, okay, this is quite dangerous. Okay, it's just 1 week of lockdown or 2 weeks of lockdown.
Hmm.
Fine, they want to wear. Fine, they want us to wear a
Mask.
mask,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, okay, not that big of a deal.
Hmm.
Work from home is comfortable. I don't mind. But then the 2 weeks became 2 months,
Hmm.
and everyone around me, my friends, my family members were like, "Yeah, it's okay." But I just asked, like, "Wait, wasn't this supposed to be for 2 weeks only. Why are we changing it now? Why is it 2 months? Why is it second wave and third wave? Why are vaccines all of a sudden mandatory to enter malls and theaters? I thought, see, just in 2020, if I said vaccines will become mandatory, they would say, hey, you're a conspiracy theorist, shut up. But then when the vaccines became mandatory, it's like, wait a minute, the conspiracy theorist is actually right. Why? There was so much flip-flopping, and it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I think people were just conditioned very slowly, right? Because initially a lot of conspiracy theorists, or I would say that a lot of rational thinking people also shared these. I don't know, have you seen that graphic of this man, which has been kind of where there's this body and it says that it's going to get chipped and this and that by 2030. So there's this picture going around, and a lot of people were sharing that. But I feel people were just slowly conditioned to just accept what was coming their way, right, as mere solutions. And I just see it like a lot of people have, I mean, they have this feeling that they can't do much about it in any case, right? The things would just happen, and they would rather just focus on their lives rather than questioning it. For them, it's more likely something as if it's to why would they additionally put their time into something that they cannot control, is how they kind of try to justify their ignorance with. That was the case, and yeah, man, something you were saying initially about at least you had that mind of at least to think where these things weren't stopping, and you were kind of realizing the nonsensical ideas which were basically about controlling people and just stopping their movement. A lot of people were okay with that because probably they were a sort of coming from a place of like privilege of some sort, right? And kind of enjoyed it. A lot of people still enjoy that aspect though. But yeah, man, that's how it was.
Yeah, I mean, personally, to be frank with you, even I kind of enjoyed it because even I have the privilege of working from home, but I would still question it because it's so stupid. Like, why would people be okay on being house arrested for not committing any crime, putting a billion people on house arrest for not committing any crime? It's clearly a human rights violation, and they keep doing it again and again, and it's so convenient, right? Because they had this first wave, and then during December everyone went on their trip. They went to Goa, they went to Manali, they had all their weddings, they had elections and massive rallies, and 1 month later they're saying second wave, nobody can go out of their house. That didn't make any sense. And the fact that some of the most educated people are okay with that, and were instead calling people like us uneducated. Like, I had a friend of mine, because we were just having this discussion, many of us got together, and I just asked, like, why are you still wearing masks? And this was around February of 2021, I think, just before the second wave. Like, why are we wearing masks? Because you wear a mask while wearing your bike or while riding your bike or driving your car from your house to the restaurant. You wear your mask, and then we all sit down, and then we take off our masks. Yes, so what's the point? To which he replied, you're behaving like an uneducated person. Wow. That didn't make any sense to me.
So just following the norm was like being educated, right? I mean, just following what the establishment is telling you. I've seen some instances where like literally people are not wearing a helmet, but they would rather wear a mask. And I think you also might have experienced that. And going about the fear, I was making some videos, like YouTube videos back in 2020. So I made a video of just cooking a recipe. I was into cooking healthy stuff, and also I was making a video on a recipe. And literally I have a mask underneath my chin, and I would still buying into everything that was being told, right? I didn't participate in the entire Ghanti Bajao wala thing that the Prime Minister was doing. But my family was. I was on the terrace, I was just looking at what people were doing. But I think the video didn't come out then of David Icke. I think he made a huge change. I know a lot of people from the same community who kind of woke up after that. It did quite wonders in a way. I remember it had like 6 million views on YouTube, and it was just 3-4 days that it had been uploaded, and plus it just got taken down after a week. So I can just imagine that if they just kept that video there for another few weeks or for a month, I mean, all of this entire pandemic, everything would have just fallen apart. They had to take that away, and the first person kind of they censored was Ike then. And yeah, man, and since then, like, we are living in different times, and we can just see each of these agendas being kind of implemented, right?
Yeah, this is a slightly nuanced take. Okay, sometimes I feel like both sides sometimes overreact a little too much because uh, this is again I'll sound like a privileged person now because personally I don't know a single person who died of COVID or of COVID vaccines in my life. Like I know people like have died, but I don't know in my immediate circle anybody dying from COVID or COVID vaccines. So I just feel like both sides sometimes overreact. On one side, we see people saying that everyone will die of COVID. On the other side, I see people saying that everyone who took the COVID vaccine will
Die
die.
of the jab, yeah.
Yeah. So I like when young celebrities die, it's natural to say was he vaccinated. But I remember last year Lata Mangeshkar died. She's like 92 or something, and they were like, was she vaccinated? I'm
Wow.
like, come on, man. Like, it's necessary to be a little nuanced, I feel sometimes.
Oh yeah, that's on the extreme side, dude. Like, we are there, and I've kind of experienced that with a lot of friends as well of mine, being very scared that okay, I've been dating this girl. Like, should I just engage with this and that, And she's vaccinated. What if I'm reading all of these things? And it's been kind of extreme in that sense. And similar to that, I saw a cardiologist video this morning itself, who was kind of censored. Some Indian doctor, I'm not able to recall his name. He was he worked with Manmohan Singh, and he's been very vocal against vaccines. Because I think Manmohan Singh's personal doctor was attending him. So he was censored by Elon Musk, not Elon Musk, but the old Twitter team. But he's been brought back now by the new Twitter rules because of that. So he made the video saying the same thing, that sure, the vaccine is causing a lot of damage, etc., that we know about, but we can't just categorize all the sudden deaths to the vaccines, right? Which a lot of people are like, okay, what's the status, this and that, all of these articles that we kind of read about. And for me also, like, if I'm not on my social media, I think life kind of seems normal. I'm like, okay, everything is happening probably, but like once you enter that stream, and once you have those kind of followers and everything that you kind of coming close to, it's like on that downside, man, in a way that like everybody is dying, the world is coming to an end, and this and that. So you got to find a balance somewhere, is what I feel, and it's kind of crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, once you log out of all social media channels, it's just a normal Sunday afternoon. Nothing is happening.
True, dude.
Yeah.
True, and yeah, I remember the time. I'm like, I keep on thinking about it. Like, I keep on asking myself the whys of kind of continuing my posting thing. I kind of literally was having this conversation yesterday itself, that why am I doing it? What's the next step? And this and that. Should I just focus on something that's completely different, instead of just giving this my time and this and that? But again, we kind of come to the realization that these steps will keep going on, right? The truth that we know is kind of, we know how bad it's going to get. I mean, sure, not the totality of it because we're not living it yet, but we know the agendas that are coming our way of, going cashless and sort of, having a social credit system and this and that. I've literally spoken to some old friends that are kind of teach crypto, and they're pretty vocal about it, right? And as we can see, a lot of recession and stuff is taking place here. It started to, a lot of layoffs are happening. We are the new target when it comes to population as well. Like, we've beaten China in that sense. So we can just understand that it's not a good sign, and it's certainly building a great narrative towards reducing the population. Plus, and we know a lot of our friends nearby, people are also very vocal about it, saying that, oh, we should just go, we should reduce our population and this and that. And how dare you say that, you know, the elites are trying to depopulate us? Don't you look at the Indian population and this and that? So it's hard. I mean, for us to also totally disengage after knowing the truth, especially knowing what's coming next. So for me personally, I'm just trying to find a route of how I can take this further, because I honestly feel for this cause itself, right? Of having a certain community and just aligning, plus working on myself, uh, using this opportunity, etc.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about population later, because I have it's a little I have some controversial opinions on that also.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you about the social media censorship. How do you feel about Elon Musk taking over Twitter? Is this a good or a bad thing?
Dude, I think he's doing a decent job for I mean, at least for now on Twitter. Sure, we've heard those things where he's the one who's pushing the Neuralink agenda and stuff. I've read about it, and even when I'm running my page, I get all these, people attacking me or whatever, or educating me on that. Then, oh, you don't know he's the mastermind, this and that, and you should be more educated. And are you a control op too, and whatnot? But not really. But I mean, we gotta just follow the actions for now, right? We gotta see what he's doing, and sure, we know there's this satanic side to it as well, to everything that's happening or whatnot. I won't go in depths of it because I don't understand the great logic of it. Sure, I know there's a reality to it, but I won't talk about it. But yeah, we gotta follow the actions, I feel, for now, right? To see that is that perspective which was being silenced everywhere, is it being allowed somewhere, right? Which is, I think, on Twitter now people are openly sharing their opinions. We are getting these videos of the Pfizer CEO being questioned, and they've been grilled, and I think Twitter is the place from where I kind of shared that video. And that video almost got a lakh views now on my page itself, just kicked off. So I'm like, so I mean, it's kind of doing a decent thing, and it's kind of wrong to just over speculate something, right? Unless we know great depths of it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Same here, man. Even I'm skeptical of Elon Musk. I'm not some fanboy of Elon Musk, but yeah, I mean, going by his actions, I have to agree that he's done a fairly decent job, because the Twitter today compared to a year ago is completely different. It's like paradise. I mean, all these people got reincarnated. People like Robert Malone and all, who would get easily kicked off,
Yeah.
can now tweet very easily.
Yeah, and I also feel that it's very important for not only the people who think alike, like us, but for everyone, to not put anyone on a certain pedestal, right? To have your individuality, and I mean, that's there, but to just agree with what you resonate with, right? And just don't become religious about someone, or just put some individual on a pedestal. Just see for what it is, right? And I think as long as you do that, probably you'll be able to discern better for yourself.
Yeah. Another tactic that I see being used since the COVID era is, linguistic words like anti-vaxxer, fact checker, misinformation, or transphobic. This is a different thing. But these words that they invented, and they are using it like massively. Like, you disagree with them, you're a transphobe, you're an anti-vaxxer, you're a climate change denier, you're a misinformation super spreader. All these new words that they've come up with, and they use it like it's been around for centuries. Like, it goes to show how important language is, and how they use these words very accurately to silence you.
Yeah, man, how it's kind of like, if after just using this word, you can make a certain perception about a person, right? And that's how it's being used. A lot of people it's seen as ridicule, a lot of these terms, where it's a lot of people also don't speak out because it's seen as so negative that they'll be ridiculed by these labels if they kind of share their opinion. I think all of us in some way have also kind of faced that, right? Where we've been called by these names or whatnot. And even my family, dude, like if my dad kind of shares something and my relatives wouldn't have a direct. I'm lucky enough that all my immediate family is kind of in agreement with me, and we kind of know what the pandemic and everything is all about. I've lost kind of two relatives as well. This was back in 21, and I've seen the level of fear, the amount of damage fear has caused, right? The amount of fear in one way. I say fear because it was being we were being forced with it, like through all sorts of medium of information, right? And it was kind of crazy. We were in the grips of it. Instead, so I've seen literally people. I've been to 3 wards. I've had crazy experiences, like just coming in contact with 150, 200 people, literally seeing one of my relatives being admitted while her family was too scared to see her at the hospital. And this person was like a bipolar patient who had a history of psychological issues, literally being forced to be in some COVID ward in some hospital which was in a different state. I literally went there to give her a phone charger. Like the intern came up to me. I went to the hospital, so my experience being, went to the hospital. I was like, the collective vibe of the place was so bad because I was getting anxiety. I was getting massive anxiety. I had to pick a corner. I had to focus on my breathing. And I was literally telling myself, I'm like, I know about all of these things. Why are you kind in this situation? I could not breathe, dude. Literally being in that situation. So I had to catch my breath back. I spoke to the doctor. And he comes to me, the intern comes to me, she's asking me that, okay, that's your aunt. She's getting massive anxiety. She's been running around asking for her charger. And eventually, after 25 days, she passes away, dude. And her lung blew out. This person was really close to me. And my mom also during that time was admitted. Like she had some issues and stuff. And I diagnosed her sugar at the hospital when the nurse didn't even check her sugar. And he was looking at me saying that, Mama sugar, and didn't let them start her on medication. Brought her back in 2 days, and her reports were the worst. 1825 HRCT. The doctor looked at me and said that her situation could go either ways. Right? Shook his head, and I'm like, okay, dude, I have to take the responsibility now, and I can't. I've been seeing what's happening, and in 2 days she was back home. And so the major thing is that I've spoken to doctors as well. Those pretty clueless. The ones who've catered to these patients. I was talking to this doctor recently who comes to my gym. She I won't name her, but she works at some of a major hospital in Delhi. And she proudly tells me that I was, taking care of COVID patients. And I'm like, so I have a different route of entering their, this stream of conversation, just starting this topic, because I can't just straight away go in there, because there is this strong belief system which will kind of stop them, and which will trigger them to kind of come back at me, right? If I tell them this is what's happening. But I share with them my own experiences and then they come to the realization that saying, and this doctor is literally telling me that, the people who were most scared died, right? And so it just comes to that fear, dude. Eventually they were like super scared. And that kind of affects your SpO2, as I've spoken to doctors as well on my page, right? Where there was this case history in Jaipur where this patient was having some psychological issues. This is a screenshot a doctor sent me because it reminded him of my Masi, my aunt. And he tells me that, dude, this person came in, he had some psychological issues. His SpO2 was somewhere around 78, 80. The doctor, his friend, in turn, came and sat with him for 2 hours. It was back to 94, 95. Everything was normal. In the morning, this patient died. He died because this doctor, in turn, who was kind of having this conversation, talking to him, realized he had a psychological issue. His duty ended, he went back home and stuff. Next morning, he comes in, this patient had died. So, so that was this case. He sent me that screenshot telling me that kind of reminded me of the aunt as well. Uh, so yeah, man. I mean, the amount of fear that was there, I've seen it firsthand. The hospital and stuff. Sure, they were overburdened. I agree with that. But you got to find the cause, man. Everyone was super scared, even with the slightest of symptoms, and they were running around to these hospitals. So you would obviously see the system collapse, right? With when people with basic symptoms literally reaching out to the hospitals, the beds were full. Uh, yeah, man. So yeah, that's my kind of sort of a little experience that
Yeah,
I had.
I agree. The fear campaign made me very angry. In fact, I think even your page, maybe around 2021, was flooded by comments from maybe from doctors and nurses, probably telling you, what do you know about all this? Are you an expert? I'm sure a lot of these pages were filled with comments from especially young doctors saying that I've been working in ICU for 24 hours straight and you don't know anything. Even I've faced comments from a young doctor who was like, you don't know anything about COVID. I was in the ICU for so many hours. And I started getting very angry against this medical community. I'm like, why do you put so much effort where maybe your approach is wrong? Again, this does not mean that I disrespect doctors or nurses, but this whole approach of you cannot question doctors and nurses, you have to trust them even if they treat the patients poorly, was disastrous. um, we saw on the news the whole day, they would show like a river full of corpses. All these corpses are in the river because of COVID. How do we know that? How do we know that they're all in the river, or in the in the place where they burn in the mortuary because of COVID? We don't know that, but we are assuming that it's because of COVID, and that increases our fear. And a lot of my relatives, including me, even if we got like a mild cough, we would get scared. Like in
Yeah.
2019, we would cough at each other's faces, but now in 2020, even if you have a mild cough, you go to the corner of the house and you
Yeah.
stay there for 2 days. It was so
Yeah, exactly.
unnecessary.
I had like fever, cold back in 2015 when I was competing in a tournament. Like I had a towel with me where I was just I had a runny nose, I was sneezing. Imagine being now and I won't be allowed to compete, dude, altogether. But agree to the fear thing, dude. I mean, and also to the doctor thing, where I read there's this doctor called Shiva Ayyadurai, if you kind of follow him. So he said very important that, I mean, they have only, doctors also have a good intention, man. I mean, all of them, many of them, most of them, let's say, right? But again, in a way, they've been trained and they've been wronged by their own system, right? Where yeah, it's where they've kind of become like an automaton, is what he mentioned, right? That those are his words, Ayadurai's, right? So, I mean, yeah, that's one thing. And when it comes to fear as well, dude, my own personal experience, while I was with my grandfather, he's literally checking his temperature thrice a day, dude. Once in the morning, once in the evening, right? And he would get all panicky when his fever would be high, right? And this would happen every single day. So yeah, the fear campaign was like one of the biggest villain. In one hand, they were saying that okay, take it, treat it like a cold, and this and that's what the doctors eventually had to come out and say. These experts from sort of so-called experts from AIMS or other places. Right? There were these articles saying that's just a mild flu. That's what the chief of AIMS or the director of this entire task force mentioned, and I kind of posted that news as well. But on one hand, you're kind of saying that's just like a flu, but on the other hand, you're trying to create all that fear, run those tapes on TV and create this hysteria that there's an issue related to oxygen, there's an issue related to beds, this is happening, these many cases today, these many cases, this and that. So I mean, it was kind of crazy, dude. I think eventually when they realized that a lot of damage has been done, like which that happened in the second wave, right? And they had to come out, literally ask people to just start treating it like a flu. I'm like, it's crazy. On one hand, you're saying that okay, people are dying and it's so dangerous, and now you have to literally do a press conference to say that it's like a flu, right? and 90% people recover. 95 is what the team at Medanta and the chief of AIMS was saying. So they also didn't realize. They were trying to cause a little bit of fear initially, but then it just went haywire, you know, with everyone rushing to the hospital. It just went to a different level which they didn't even expect, and then they had to just, slow down the entire thing, dude, when it came to fear.
It was a lot of it was mismanagement. Okay, like they say that the hospital beds were full. Yeah, because a lot of the hospitals had to only accommodate 50% of the patients, and they had to get rid of hospital beds because they said that you have to do social distancing. That can contribute to hospitals being overburdened. A lot of the nurses and doctors were told to stay at home. That could have caused the overburdening. So it's not everything is being blamed on COVID. But at the same time, they're saying that COVID has a 99% survival rate, which is the same as flu. And then we also hear other data, like the NCRB said that in 2020, more Indians died from suicide than from COVID. Okay, why did so many Indians kill themselves in 2020? Was it because of lockdown-induced anxiety? So we have to, like, I strongly believe that these experts have to be arrested and tried for because they are indirectly responsible for these lockdown-induced murders and even vaccine-induced murders as well.
Right, and here again they were taking these decisions. Even they can say that they didn't know much about the disease and so on, but what gives them the right to have those decisions, which were the end of it, right? That you can't argue against that, or you couldn't have your say against it. It's like vaccines in one way, right? Where they are saying that we're not mandating it, but you're losing your job. So if someone takes it and he dies, like, can he sue the company, right? Because they in a way indirectly threatened him to fire, right? And that's something that's happened in schools as well, where they have to pay a sort of this professor that got kind of fired from a school, and eventually not fired, but yeah, he was sent on a suspension, and the Delhi High Court probably asked the school to give him like 2 years of whatever money that was kind of, and just to pay reparations to him, dude. And that's how it is, man. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, we are highly critical of COVID vaccines. After COVID began, not only did I start thinking about COVID vaccine, I also started thinking about every other vaccine as well. I never asked all these questions about COVID vaccines. In fact, just at the beginning of 2021, I got vaccinated against rabies because I had to. I was working as a volunteer at an animal shelter, and they said if you want to work here as a volunteer, you'll have to go get the rabies shot. So I said, okay, fine, I'll get it. And nothing happened to me. I mean, no side effects or whatever. But now I'm starting to think like, hey, what about other vaccines? Are all of these vaccines necessary? Now, a normie watching this will say, now he's definitely an anti-vaxxer.
Dude, I've read this quote, man, which says, sorry to interrupt you, but it says on vaccine itself that I became an anti-vaxxer only when I started researching about vaccines, right? So you're pro-vaxxer till the time you are you don't know anything about vaccination or vaccines, and you're just getting your information from the so-called experts who you think have the best, towards you. So yeah, man.
Yeah, exactly. So even there are so many science communicators on YouTube who keep saying that trust the experts, trust WHO, and they will look at people like me and they will say, okay, you're spreading misinformation. But then who am I supposed to listen to? The government? The government has a track record of spreading misinformation. Which government? Should I trust the US government who said that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction? Should I trust the Chinese government, the Indian government? And what is WHO and IMA? These are all organizations associated with the government, which gets funding from the government. So how can I trust institutes that have a track record of spreading misinformation. So this whole logic of them calling us misinformation super spreaders itself is wrong.
Yeah, people don't have that realization, dude, of just going in depth of these, just trying to think. They would rather, it's much more easier to just receive information and act according to that than just take the responsibility of discerning for yourself. That's something I've realized, dude. Many times, many of my relatives don't kind of have these conversations with me anymore, right? Like they would just get, my dad partially knows a few things, so they would actually shut him up if he kind of has that conversation with them. Like they would just tell him that, okay, where are you getting your information from? WhatsApp, right? That's also there in a way of someone to ridicule you. That's also different. It's not a term, but they would just say that, okay, you come from WhatsApp University, maybe, right? That's where you get your information from. And yeah, man, I mean, they trust these sources again. They wouldn't trust the sources which is basically aligned with a political wing that they're against with, but they would still receive information from their trusted sources where they are leaning, with their cognitive biases.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. A lot of people, I mean, would the ones that were kind of, a little liberal, they would kind of trust NDTV and stuff to tell them the truth. While we see the right wing now just going after Pfizer and stuff, right? And just trying to attack that, okay, the West was against us. These vaccines that were given to us are all Indians and nationalist vaccines and stuff, because our government kind of, kept us in regards and, thought about us, and they wouldn't want to harm us, etc. So that's how we're divided, man.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, both the left and the right, they conclude on the same thing, that you just get vaccinated. Even I've seen on Twitter people like, I believe Vivek Agnihotri, who said that, see, don't these Pfizer people are bad people. They were insulting our vaccines, but take our vaccine.
They're just making a movie out of it.
Exactly, the vaccine files or something like that.
I don't know. War on vaccine, something like that.
Okay, yeah, and I'm pretty sure someone like Vivek Agnihotri, who does quite a lot of research, is aware of our vaccine side effects as well. I'm sure he's aware of the side effects of Covaxin and Covishield. But it's so funny to see how he conveniently ignores it because it suits his narrative.
Yeah, man. I mean, a lot of people don't want to take that stand, I feel, right? Because that just it will be a a paradigm shift for them, and they're not ready to put themselves in that situations yet. I know a lot of people that follow Johan as well on Twitter, some politicians as well, and now they're the ones kind of attacking mRNA and stuff, right? And certainly they haven't taken the jab. They know what's up with everything that's happening. But it's an uncomfortable side, dude. They don't want to put themselves alone. They don't want to, isolate themselves from the herd, which is kind of has a certain opinion. Like we've been there, we know how it feels to, have an opinion which is kind of not aligned with the majority. So it's an uncomfortable position. A lot of people don't want to take that stand. They don't want to lose a lot of things that you've already made for themselves, right? Whatever we call this, the matrix in one way, right? They don't want to lose out on all the perks that come with it, right? So they don't want to take a strong stand against anything, and that's how it is, man. That's how.
Yeah, but I think they don't realize that the real comfort is actually here, because I'm actually quite comfortable. I know that in the beginning it was uncomfortable to have an opinion different from theirs, but I feel comfortable because every time I go for a walk, and if I get a mild chest pain, I know it's because I ate something terrible for breakfast and not because I have myocarditis from vaccine.
Wow.
And that's the comfort that I get. That's the privilege that I have that all the vaccinated will not have. So in the long run, I'm the comfortable one.
And I felt bad, dude. All of a sudden, all these news were just coming out against the vaccines and stuff, right? It's being overloaded, like since the last month or so. And I was feeling bad, like I'm like, it's not a good time to be a person who's taken all these jabs and taking the boosters. With all the information that's coming with it, it's gonna take some time, and it's gonna be hard. So I made a little quote as well, like being an unvaccinated right now is like an acid of some sort, right?
I know, I know.
Yeah, man.
I think there's going to be a lot of demand for people who are unvaccinated
I
because
don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
because read an article. I don't remember from where, but that there is rising demand for unvaccinated
Pilots?
pilots,
Pilots.
because billionaires don't want their private jets to be flight by vaccinated pilots who might get a heart attack at any time.
But again, that's also a little on the extreme side, right? Because we saw this flight also, sadly, that the one that kind of met with an accident recently in Nepal, and there were again talks with, okay, were the people vaccinated and stuff, the pilots certainly. But again, we got to come to that realization that not everything is because of that, and also the emphasis on other lifestyle changes as well that you have spoken about widely with your other guests as well. And yeah, man, and right, I mean, yeah, about the unvaccinated sperm as well and so on, right? So that's super funny on one end. But yeah, with everything that's coming our way, dude, the recent video of Tony Blair as well, of again just being very vocal about having these, emphasizing again on these biometrical IDs related to, someone's inoculation details of when they've been inoculated and this and that. And someone like Tony Blair, who's not even in the ministry, he's not even doing anything, right? And he's so open about it, just being vocal as if he's a pharmacist of some sort, as if, he's in power, which is super weird. So, yeah, this is people need to question, and it's kind of good that the questions related to vaccines, the safety of it, the efficacy of it had already, that was already out of the picture. They themselves admitted, but it's kind of good that now it's being questioned. At least people will be more cautious next time for the next ones that are to come, because we know it's not the end now. The amount of profits these companies have made, they would be certainly up to profit again in the future. And as WHO also has made it quite clear that we'll have more pandemics and stuff. So we need to realize that all these inoculation and stuff won't come to an end right now, irrespective of these, all these protests and these CEOs being questioned and stuff. But it's a good sign, at least it'll just help people to get a little more skeptical about the safety of these drugs, which wasn't there earlier. We were just believers that it's good for us. Now the question has come in that, okay, what are the ingredients in it? Is adequate testing necessary? And the data and everything, right? And what can be the side effects? Oh, the side effects aren't immediate. It could happen after a few months as well, right? Early on, people were thinking that it's some sort of paracetamol itself, right? That they would just get an instant reaction right there, right? Oh, मैंने vaccine लिया एक because I have like the people that I lost were like, one was jabbed like a week prior, the other one was jabbed a month prior. I'm not saying that he died because of jab, but they had those symptoms of feverish and stuff because they were those initial reactions of you getting sick and stuff. So yeah, man, all of these things have to be kept in consideration.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, why are people like Tony Blair talking? The same people who will tell us trust the experts, believe that Bill Gates is an expert on vaccines and Greta is an expert on climate change when they have like no expertise at all.
The control of information, right? That's kind of kept people in that sheer ignorance of not knowing who Jeffrey Epstein was, what is the Epstein list, right? List of guests, his island and stuff, not knowing that these individuals that are making policies, etc., were on his list, are merely traffickers and indulge in pedophilia and whatnot. So that's kind of crazy, and yeah, man, and that's how it is with everything, with media, entertainment. A lot of these things are being normalized, in our and people are becoming a little more normal to these factors which are kind of satanic in one way, quite evil, right?
Yeah.
And we're being normalized, we're conditioned to accept it as normalcy.
Yeah, the whole Epstein thing is quite crazy. The fact that there are so many politicians and even scientists and intellectuals in those flight logs, and it's completely blacked out by the mainstream media. And there are people who still watch the mainstream media channels. There are people who still listen to the politicians who were on those who were on the flight with Jeffrey Epstein. So it's all interconnected. The thing about COVID is that for many people, first they start becoming skeptical of this whole COVID narrative. Like, why are we in lockdowns? Why are we made to wear masks? Why are we promoting vaccines that have side effects? But then the questioning doesn't stop there. It goes to other things like, is climate change real? For a very long time, I believed in climate change. I stopped believing in climate change agenda only in 2021. Until then, I thought, okay, climate change is real. I started questioning about the government, like, why do we even need a government that taxes the shit out of us and does basically nothing? We can do we can provide the same services at a fraction of the cost. Where does all the money go? So it starts with COVID, but then it goes to a completely different angle. Like, I'm sure this has happened to you. What are all the other questions that have come to your mind after COVID?
Yeah, man. I mean, again, the role that the government has basically in terms of freedom was the main thing, right? Of other things, I kind of question the need of. I see these mini dictators as well when it comes to societies and condominiums where we stay. I see them as mini dictators trying to do the same thing that the governments do in a larger space. So I kind of try to, revolt against that as well, resent a bit of it, like stuff that I feel which is not kind of cool. But yeah, man, in terms of what we see with the food and everything, also, right? The kind of quality, especially, right? The stuff where it's coming from, and all of these things, man. I mean, mainly it's just been the infringement of basically the freedom, right? How could someone just mandate or force you to take a drug that you don't actually want to take, right? Solely that's totally against my belief. Even if I was kind of, in a way, a believer, I would agree. If I agreed with everything that they were saying about the pandemic, etc., I still would have preferred to have this option of, taking something experimental, especially when it comes to my health. So to have the government mandate that, or to have that power to force that onto me, that's something totally against it.
Yeah, I started asking a lot of questions about government, about climate change, and all these issues post COVID. I even started asking questions about the whole LGBTQ thing, because until this whole COVID thing, I was pretty much like, okay, pro LGBTQ. I was like, okay, it's their personal choice. If a guy is gay, why do I care? I'm still like that. Like, I don't care what other people are doing. It's none of my business. But I
try not
feel
to
like,
force it on us.
yeah, but
Right?
it's being promoted. Like, why?
Right.
Like, a society, in my opinion, should be selfish.
Right.
It should want to preserve itself, which is why societies traditionally promote heterosexual marriages, which I understand, because it wants children, it wants more people. I get that. But now, why are they suddenly promoting this LGBTQ, the unending acronym? And in the West, they are even promoting this to children. To young children are getting hormones and sex change operations. And I feel like this whole transgender agenda is like a stepping stone to transhumanist agenda. That's again a whole different thing. And now it's very, like, if I go on talking like this, I'll very easily sound like a homophobic person or a transphobic person. But in reality, I just want people to mind their own business.
Oh, true, dude. I mean, because we know that in one way that their agenda is to get rid of most of the population, right?
Yeah.
And like they'll take any route that gets them there to by creating all of these confusion as well when it comes to gender and the polarity of men, women, uh, masculinity, femininity, all of that confusion that they want to create. They would, and again, just comes down to that division that they've always created, right, with anti-vaxxers and sort of. They know that this is an emotionally triggering topic for a lot of people, and to have a discussion about it would just create a little more division among people. And I don't even talk about it on my page or etc. That's something I try to, uh, ignore completely for now. Uh, that being, and also diets as well, be it vegan or whatnot. So that also I try to ignore because again, it's quite an emotional thing for a lot of people, and they again the orchestrators kind of use these emotionally triggering issues basically to create a little more division among people, and that's how it is. I think it's just realization when people slowly open up through any medium, through COVID, the scam, or any other medium through vaccine, being skeptical about it. Anyone who gets over to this side, slowly as they get deeper, they'll start to realize what's happening and get a little more closer to their roots, right? Like I think we have um, having a accepting a little more minimalist approach, and finding peace and just doing the inner work and all of those things that we do, uh, and yeah, man, and kind of losing slight interest with the worldly things that we kind of were running behind earlier, and it got us back to understand our own self. So I think that would just help people as well to unravel what's being thrown at them, right? To just confuse them in some way. And just like you, I have a similar beliefs and stuff, freedom for all, and everyone should have that choosing. And I've myself participated in protests, and I've like kind of had that activist kind of person in me always. Uh, but again, it's the propaganda is so strong that it just makes you become very self-righteous uh, and not and dismissive about other opinions.
Yeah. So now we'll talk about overpopulation. I think we were talking about it
Yeah.
earlier. See, I have a moral dilemma here. I have a little
Yeah.
confusion because I'll be honest with you. I don't like most people I come across,
Fair enough.
and I don't think most people who I talk to, if I talk openly, I don't think most people will like me either. So, when a lot of people who said take the vaccine, if you don't take the vaccine, you're an idiot. If you question the COVID narrative, you're an idiot.
I know where this is going.
Yeah. Now, if they get a vaccine-induced side effect, if they get a heart attack, why should I care? Like, why?
True.
I think I should be apathetic. And if there is a depopulation happening because these idiots are now taking the vaccine, or these people are eating a terrible diet, I should just say, hey, you know what? There's more parking space now. Why should I care?
Yeah, man. I mean, as the Hindi saying goes, right? Agyan, of not being aware. Ignorance is also equally bad, right? I don't want to quote anyone incorrectly, but I think that's a famous quote. But so that's how it is. I mean, we can be kind of sympathetic in a sense when someone dies and stuff, but that's their fate, man. But plus, they were kind of, you had so strong opinion and beliefs, you were brainwashed to such an extreme that you hoped for and you prayed harms to the other person, right? Which is again in one way your own karma, dude, sadly, right? But yeah, man, I mean, the population control, but I think they will require some more antics. I mean, recession, I think, is also going to play a huge role in that. And yeah, man.
Yeah, so that's why I'm a little apathetic. Like when people say like they are going to reduce the population, the World Economic Forum wants to, depopulate the world.
Hmm.
Sometimes I react like this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
okay if you
what?
start with
Like,
them.
yeah, like I don't care.
Fair, man. I mean, yeah, I don't blame you for that. I haven't thought about it deeply though, but I've like kind of accepted. I'm like, okay, if even my known ones, like because I know I've worked with a client, and this person no longer trains with me. He's like a 35-year-old dude, and he's having some heart issues now. All of a sudden, he got an ECG done, and his cardiologist tells him that this is quite rare for a 30-year-old person, and he wouldn't listen anything against the experiment. And I would on purpose. I'm like, did you tell him? Did you? Because, yeah, he's like, oh yeah. He's shocked for a second. He's like, yeah, I told him about the jab. I told him I had COVID as well. So just to, he's like, COVID. I mean, it could only happen because of COVID, not because of the jab. That's kind of a way of him literally trying to, signal me that. But it's crazy, man. I've kind of given up hope on those kind of people as well. I know them personally, not that I've totally cut off with them, but kind of accepted. I don't talk to them about all these things, etc., and kind of detached, right? I think that's the best thing that we can do, irrespective of them being our loved ones or whatever. But it's their own journey. For people, there are lots of people that are now waking up after having the ill effects of it, right? Making these posts and stuff coming out, which is kind of respectful. That these people are kind of hateful towards the ones, because this was politicized so badly. I'm not talking about India though, but in abroad it was politicized. Like there were two ends, two sides, and now many people are just coming out and accepting that they were kind of wrong. It's kind of respectful. Like it's kind of, but many of them have not been lucky enough to be alive and just fight through and accept their mistake or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's how it is. A lot of people are more joining in. That's what we call a second wave of awakening, also in one way, right? That they'll have their shared journey, and they'll kind of come to realization of what's happening, and the world is not how they used to view it.
Yeah, that's the good news. I think more and more people are slowly becoming awakened. I see good things happening, and I see bad things also. Like I see all these, the Ambani wedding, where the rulers are not wearing masks, but you see all the bodyguards, only they wear masks. Even if when you see a politician, the politician is waving and there's no mask, but you see bodyguards around him, everybody wears a mask. So it's so weird. So it's like there's this duality going on right now, and we have to somehow navigate through it.
Yeah, we've always called these masks being a symbol of slavery, right, in some way. And I see that again. I see when I go to condominium itself, and I see the guards and stuff wearing a mask while everyone is moving freely, right? So, which is kind of a disparity. Early on, it was all of us wearing masks, and the elites wouldn't be wearing them. They would just, we've seen those videos as well where they would just wear a mask for a photo op, right? Literally coming out from the camera, they wear a mask and then just throw it away, right? Only to just signal this message to people so everyone follows that. And now and we were wearing the mask itself, so it just kind of created that disparity of the slaves in one side while the oligarchs and the elites on one side, and they call themselves the elite also. I'm not specially calling them. There's these videos of World Economic Forum where they kind of refer themselves as the elites. Like literally there are videos of it, right? Where so, and that's how it is. Even now it just continues where the guards, luckily where I stay, they are, I mean, the guards are also kind of free to not be wearing them. But some other high-end places where it's kind of crazy just to create a little sort of a disparity.
Yeah. What are your future plans?
Oh, few, dude. I think it just comes down to purposes. My health being one, and working from home as well. Those are things. When it comes to the page, importantly, I'm trying to take it further, trying to find a route if I could monetize it as well till the time it's there. Uh, I am thinking about a few things, getting some merchandise as well, starting off with that. That's something I'm kind of sitting on. I've been thinking about this idea for a very long time, but now kind of thinking about it, and on a personal level, dude, health and just stick to some good habits as well, which is, again, we're filled with a lot of distractions overall, right? From all around. Uh, so yeah, to just have a better control of that and not let the distractions control you. So honestly, that's been the thing. When it comes to my other things, page, etc., that's the plan, dude. Just work around that, and so I have a greater motivation also to take it further, and it's not a one-off thing where I'm just posting and sharing. And also, it'll just give me a little more of a freedom, is what I feel, right? Freedom of just saying my truth. Yeah, man, that's the plan for now.
Fantastic, man. And that concludes the podcast.
Cheers,
and
man.
Thanks for being on the Labyrinth. Thanks for
Thank you for having me here, man.
Yeah, anytime, man. Thanks for all the work that you do.
Thanks a lot, and I'll get in touch with you certainly if related to learning about podcasts and other things, dude.